And welcome back to D.I.DinRawLife. So today, excuse the awful lighting, this was a terrible spot for a video, but whatever, I'm sticking with it. I'm here now. But welcome back to D.I.DinRawLife. Today I'm going to do just a quick, maybe not quick, I don't know, hopefully a quick review on 13 Reasons Why. I actually finished the series on Tuesday. It was Tuesday. I finished the series Tuesday night. However, I needed a couple days before I did the video to actually gather my thoughts and figure out how I felt about it before I did a review, because just wow. That's all I can say right now is wow. For those of you that don't know what 13 Reasons Why it is, I'm sure most of you do, was actually, especially because this was actually a request I had gotten from somebody. I don't know how to make that any better than it is. I'm sorry, you guys. But especially since one of my subscribers had requested I do this video, I'm sure most of you know what it is, but just in case there's people out there watching this that don't, 13 Reasons Why is a Netflix original series that they started, I believe, I want to say last year or the year before. I could be wrong. It's a new series. There's only 2 seasons, thank God. And it basically was intended to raise awareness about teen suicide. However, I think they missed the mark on that one. So I'm just going to go ahead and get straight into my review from here, because I think that's a good segue into it. I think Netflix had a really, really good idea. I think where they were wanting to go with this series started out really cool. And I have to say I'm actually a little disappointed in Netflix, because I watched To the Bone, which I will do another review for that, but I want to rewatch it because it was quite a while ago that I watched To the Bone. So I want to just watch it again just to refresh my brain since it was so long ago. But I watched To the Bone, which was another Netflix original series kind of trying to bring awareness to anorexia, and I think that was mainly their focal point. They did have a few bulimics, but it wasn't really their focal point, but basically eating disorders. And 90% of the movie was really good. There were some issues, but anyways. So I went into watching 13 Reasons Why, kind of expecting to see something similar to the Bone. And I did not see anything like To the Bone in 13 Reasons Why. I guess my first thing I want to put for 13 Reasons Why is it's a major trigger warning. Like, if you were easily triggered by drugs and alcohol, suicide, depression, anger, sexual content, rape, really anything in that gambit, I would not suggest you watch this. Or if you really do want to watch it, I would definitely suggest you have a friend. It's definitely, like, kind of defines trigger warning. They definitely didn't hold back, in my opinion, like, at all in their content, so that's fine. I think it kind of shows the reality of high school, so I'm not dissing them for not holding back on their content. I'm just saying, be warned that this show, I've read some other reviews that definitely agree with me that it can be and is very triggering to certain people. So if you're one of those people who get triggered really easily, or might, I suggest you maybe watch it a little bit at a time, or not watch it at all, or watch it with a friend, because it runs the gamut. So one thing that I did not like about 13 Reasons Why was immediately right from the get-go, season 1, episode 1, they start out with this girl Hannah Baker's tapes, like old-fashioned tape recorder tapes that she had made and whatnot, kind of with 13 people she quote-unquote listed off reasons that made her want to kill herself. I just immediately was turned off by the way they decided to exhibit this, or whatever you want to call it. The way they went about that, I was just completely turned off. I feel like just that alone showed a really misunderstanding of suicide alone. I don't think Netflix really thought about that. I think they thought about more entertainment factors. So, yeah, just the whole idea of her leaving tapes was pretty turned me off. It made it way more dramatic than suicide usually is. And I don't mean dramatic as in dramatic, I mean like attention-seeking dramatic. Because suicide is definitely a very dramatic and drastic thing. It's just in the other end of drama. It's not in the, oh, I'm going to go get attention type of drama, if that makes sense. So that really, really turned me off. And then how she had all 13 people on those tapes listen to all 13 tapes. Yeah, really messed up and really did not do this series any good. I don't think it did any good. And I just have to say, overall, I think Netflix missed the mark. I think they definitely missed the mark on this one. They had a great idea that could have been awesome and educational and really well done, and they missed that mark. And that's kind of a bummer, because they set the bar for themselves when they did To the Bone, and they did not even come close to meeting it. Yeah, I was not impressed. A lot of the subjects that they talked about seemed very misinformed. Like, there are instances of rape, there are instances of drug and alcohol abuse. There are actually 2 suicides in this series, Hannah Baker's and then another student's. And they just seemed really like they didn't actually do their research. So that was part of the problem with this show for me, is it didn't seem like they actually did any research, like they actually talked to anybody who had experienced suicide or who had felt like committing suicide or any kind of mental health professional about it prior to making this show. So just know that when you watch this show, it's going to be coming from a perspective that makes them seem like they really didn't know what they were talking about, which can be extremely aggravating for people. I know I was extremely aggravated watching the show. Second of all, they made it into a teen drama. Instead of keeping this at what it should have been, which was an educational, slightly entertaining, but an educational series to bring awareness to the subject, they turned it into a teen soap opera drama thing. I think about, I want to say the 7th or 8th episode in the first season, they started losing touch of what they were doing, and it just became a teen drama show like you would see on freaking ABC or something. It didn't become anything other than that. And I think they kept throwing all these things to continue said teen drama, and it just did not seem like a movie about suicide awareness at all to me anymore. It just, like, the whole thing with their parents suing the school, yes, that actually happens occasionally when a child commits suicide. Parents do attempt to sue the school. And like it turned out, they lost their case, as it usually does, because it's almost impossible to hold a school responsible. It's almost impossible to prove that they were responsible for it. But I think that became their main focal point, was this trial that was going on and all the kids that were involved in this big secret about the tapes. And some of it was just extremely unrealistic. Like, one of the main characters, Clay Jensen, walked around confronting all these people who did these horrible things to Hannah Baker. And he would go confront them because obviously he felt like he needed to get justice and all of that good stuff. And he would get the crap beat out of him. I can think of 3 times distinctly off the top of my head without looking at any notes that Clay Jensen went and confronted somebody and got the crap beat out of him. And I mean, like, I don't mean someone punched him in the face or pushed him up against a locker. I mean literally, like, damn near to death beat the crap out of him. And then they have him just get up, you know, all miserable and walk home. And his parents never suspected a thing. Like, you know, he's like, oh, like, he came home and he was all beat up and couldn't hardly walk. And his parents were like, what happened? And he's like, oh, I fell off my bike on the way home. No parent in their right mind would believe that 5 times over. Like, you know what I mean? They might believe it the first go around, if that makes sense. Like, a parent might, if their child is extremely convincing and they're extremely oblivious. A parent might believe that their kid just fell off their bike the first time it happened. But it didn't just happen once. He got the crap beat out of him at least 3 or 4 times that I can distinctly remember. And his parents just kept like, oh, okay. Taking every single poorly come up with excuse that he gave them, and we're like, oh, okay, alright, cool. You know what I mean? No parent would actually believe that. After the second time your kid comes home black, blue, bloody, and barely able to walk, parents are gonna do some investigating and they're gonna figure that shit out. Like, I'm sorry, like, like, especially because his parents are the overly concerned type and whatnot, so that wasn't at all realistic. So please don't think you can get the shit beat out of you and tell your parents you're fine and have them believe it. It's not gonna happen. Second of all, at some point in season 2, Clay Jensen stashes a freaking junkie in his house, like in his bedroom. He hides another kid that used to go to the school who was strung out from heroin and withdrawing in his room and left him there with another kid, and his parents never found out until, like, way later in the season. That would never happen. I'm sorry, parents are just way too nosy for that. Like, you know what I mean? It just... So there were so many things that just wouldn't actually happen the way that they had them happen. If that makes sense. And, like, one of the things that never happened until the very last couple episodes in season 2 was nobody went to the police. Like, none of these kids went to the police about anything. And I can tell you the likelihood that that actually happened is extremely low. Because you're talking about an entire high school of kids. Right? Like, a whole group of kids. The likelihood that none of them would grow a conscience is pretty slim. If it was a group of 4 or 5, I could understand that. But it was pretty much an entire school. So those are my cons. I'm going to cut the cons off there, because I could go on and on and on and on about what I didn't like about the show. I really could. I could go for days. However, the movie did have, or this series, movie, whatever, they did have a couple things that I did like. What? I've been griping about it for 13 minutes. I liked something? Yes. I know it's hard to believe. There were a few moments in the show where I was like, okay, right on, that's awesome. And whatnot, but I'm going to take a break for a second and drink my really crappy coffee, because my mouth is dry. That is some gross coffee. Huh. My hubby made me Dollar Tree coffee, and it is nasty. But anyways, so a couple of things that I did like about the series. Now I'm drawing a blank. I think one of the things I liked about it was there was a certain turning point in season 2, and I'm not going to really, like, elaborate on that for those of you that haven't seen the series or haven't watched it that far into season 2. I don't want to completely, like, spoil it or anything. But needless to say, an event happens in season 2 that kind of makes everyone pull their heads out of their ass and pull their shit together. Because up until that point, all these kids that were involved in the tapes were completely against each other. They really were just not friends. They were only dealing with each other simply because they were all on the tapes and trying to protect each other's secrets. They didn't really give a shit about each other. It was more saving each other's ass, if that makes sense. But after this one event in season 2, everyone kind of pulled their head out of their ass. Which was kind of nice. Basically, a kid winds up getting pretty hurt. And that's all I'll say, is he gets pretty hurt and winds up needing physical therapy and all sorts of shit. And, they kind of lean towards that, hey, not all the football jocks are assholes. Actually, it was baseball, but you get my drift. Which was really weird, because typically the jocks in high school are football jocks, and those are the assholes. But these guys were baseball jocks, and they were the assholes, but it's a petty thing that doesn't actually matter. Just pointing it out that it was a little weird. Anyways, one of the people on the baseball team kind of stood up and was like, hey, they're assholes, but I'm not. I play baseball with them, and that's it. And decided to pull his head out of his ass and help this kid that needed help. And then everyone else kind of came around and helped him out. And same thing kind of happened again when one of the rape victims from this kid in school who'd been raped, everyone kind of knew about it at this point, and they were trying to get her to bring it up in trial. And they all kind of were like, and we will have your back. So in that moment, I was like, all right, cool. You take these group of kids that had nothing in common and no one liked each other and blah, 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 and you have them stand together behind each other to get through crap. So that was really cool. That is really bad. It was just really nice to see that eventually they all did learn to come together and that figure out that there was better things to fuss over. One of the other things that I liked was the school principal, the whole school during this whole trial was playing the it's not my fault kind of crap, and we did everything we could crap, when obviously they didn't. I'm not saying it was the school's fault in the show, I'm just saying they clearly did not do everything they could do. But everyone was kind of just playing along with whatever the board of directors was telling them to do just to save their jobs. And the one person who didn't do that was the school counselor. And I think that was really awesome. He flat out came right out and said, no, we didn't do everything we could do. Yes, legally, I did everything I was required to do, because they're kind of like, according to this guidebook and handbook, did you do everything you were supposed to? And he's like, yeah, I did. And they're like, so you followed through with all of the steps you were required to follow through with? And he's like, yes. And this lawyer was like, so is it fair to say there was nothing more you could do? And the dude's like, no, it's not. There was more I could do. I could have done more. I could have not let her walk out my door. I could have asked her to stay. But I didn't do everything I could do. And at that point, I was like, right on. Somebody in the school has a square head on his shoulders. So I think that was probably about what sums it up for crap I liked about it. I really did not like this series. I think, like I said, I think Netflix really missed their mark on this one. However, if you're just looking for a show to watch that'll keep you entertained and keep you on the edge of your seat, by all means, watch 13 Reasons Why. It's very dramatic. It will keep you on the edge of your seat at times. It will hold your attention. However, if you're looking for a good movie on suicide prevention and suicide awareness, wouldn't recommend this movie. It's one of those things where, as just a TV show, it's alright. It's entertaining, it'll keep my attention. It does have me on the edge of my seat at times, so by all means, watch it. However, on what they were trying to do, no, it's completely aggravating and awful. So that's my review. I'm sure other people have loved this series. I know there's probably some people that are just crazy about it, and that's fine. I know lots of people who are not crazy about it and hate it, and that's fine too. So I just wanted to put my review and my opinion out there. Anyways, thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.